in my personal life, in my business world, and how I use AI, I really love the idea of seeking to understand one another.
Mm.
And I believe that that's what creates the most beautiful relationships in our lives.
Picture this, an AI that knows your ideal customer better than you do, but doesn't care about them like you would. And that's the paradox that we're living in today. Today, I am joined by Amy Yamada, who is a powerhouse in authentic AI marketing. And together, we're going to explore how to adopt AI without losing your humanity in the process. Amy, welcome to the show. It's great to finally have you on. A pleasure.
Thank you so much, Mo. I've been so looking forward to this after our initial conversations and our chats. And so my hope is that this conversation just inspires those who are watching and listening, and that we can provide, yes, just some great value for that.
Indeed, indeed. And we love to talk, obviously, about how technology is reshaping society. And we have this wonderful tool that's been around for a long time, actually, called AI. But nowadays, it has it is now more accessible than ever. It's in the hands of visionaries and entrepreneurs like you. And I we often on the show, and I personally like to reflect on technology because it is powerful, but it can also be scary. And I think a lot of times people nowadays have a sense of wonder, of awe, but also of fear. And you and I talked about this. As you know, I am a scuba diver. I love exploring the depths of the ocean. I love diving with creatures big and small, sharks, octopus, you name it. And I find that especially with the underwater world, when I talk to people, many of them who love it were perhaps at first very, very scared about it. They recount the first time that they, put on a scuba regulator or hit the water or saw a shark, and they say it was incredibly scary. But after they got over that initial fear, it was after, once they got over that, there was some beautiful things on the other side of it. So it was very powerful. And nowadays I can't live without diving. I love doing that. I love exploring the ocean. So I find that AI and technology is a lot like diving into the unknown. It really does require curiosity. It requires caution, but it requires curiosity as well to dive into it. And Amy, I think you have a wonderful journey that you can share with us about technology. So I'd love to hear about how you got into the AI world for the viewers to let us know.
Yeah, definitely. And I love your analogy of the diving and all that. So true. Well, it's funny when I look back on my own AI journey because I've had my business coaching business for over 13 years now. I came from a corporate background in media advertising, sales, and marketing, and I was in that for about 15 years. So I've really loved and geeked out on business and how we as businesses connect with an audience. Even from my corporate years, also as an entrepreneur, it's like how do we really connect with the audience? How do we deeply understand the audience, your ideal client, the people you're meant to serve? And that's definitely been a through line when I look back at my journey. And when ChatGPT became mainstream, I dove in really early on with that. And it was really interesting because I recognize that AI has been around a lot longer than that. Now that I've tapped into some really like amazing AI power users. And but well, I dove in early when ChatGPT came out, and it was my partner in life and in business, Ken, who was like nudging me. He's like, "You got to check out this ChatGPT thing," and I
Oh,
was like, yeah, yeah. But I was, the busy entrepreneur, like, yeah, yeah, I'll get to that later, right, on the middle of whatever I'm doing. He's like, and then he just like brought me. He's like, he grabbed his laptop. He's like, just watch this, right? And I bet a lot of us have had this experience, with ChatGPT. Like, what was your first, ChatGPT experience or AI experience? And he just put in a prompt, and it created this content, and I was like, what is this? Right? Like what are you showing? This is crazy. This is like magic.
yeah,
And someone who's always enjoyed writing and creating content and communication, I was blown away, just mind blown.
yeah.
And I thought, okay, this is really interesting. And so then it piqued my curiosity. And like a lot of people early on, I was also skeptical in that I was impressed by its productivity and the efficiency. But if I was going to use it initially for content,
Mm.
my concern was that it was lacking authenticity. And I know that's been a big topic in the AI space. And so I thought, well, instead of just rejecting it immediately, I thought, what if I worked with it? What if I partnered with it, just like I would if I was hiring a human copywriter? And
Yeah.
that was just one way that in which we used it. And I started to use what I've been training my clients on for years, and we were able to crack the code on training it on authenticity. And then we started focusing on getting insights on the ideal client. So it just kind of started there, and it's just evolved so rapidly. Like these last, I don't know, 2.5 years or so,
Yeah.
I feel like it's just everything's moved so quickly. So I'll just pause there, but it's been
No,
a wild ride.
it's been a wild ride indeed, and as you mentioned, it is moving quickly. And I admire the fact that you realized, or at least your partner helped you realize, you got to jump on this quickly as well because it is moving rapidly. And you were saying, "Oh, look, I'm focusing on this other stuff," and it's like, "Wait a minute, you need to check this out." I mean, this is disruptive technology, and and kudos to you for realizing that you need to be a part of that disruption sooner rather than later, and not just by following the herd. You said, okay, well, what can we do with this? Right? There is a deeply human element to what you were doing. You say, okay, well, I was doing coaching. Now, how can I actually build this out so that I could do what I was doing and bring value in the same way I was, but superpowered? So, and I think what clicked for you is the fact that you realize that this is a tool in your arsenal that if not used, it's a waste.
Absolutely.
Um, so yeah, now I've seen a lot of, so you obviously you used it to build a tool around your business, around your value proposition that you were doing, which is great, by the way. We really believe in tech that serves the mission, the big mission. Whatever the mission, that mission needs to be a really good one. And I've seen a lot of tools that sort of, they promise to automate a lot of different things and stuff like that. But what you've built here with what I believe you call it the Ideal Client Handbook, right?
Yes. Yeah.
You built something different. Tell us a little bit about that, and tell us kind of how this augmented AI approach is helping you serve the mission.
Yeah. Oh man. Well, I love your question because I got some chills as you were talking about this because when you said that word mission, I thought that word is so essential for all of us as entrepreneurs. And I'm just going to make it about me for a moment here.
Please do. Of course.
I've discovered over time that my mission is around not just authenticity, but empathy, right? So I just in my personal life, in my business world, and how I use AI, I really love the idea of seeking to understand one another.
Mm,
And I believe that that's what creates the most beautiful relationships in our lives, even our relationship with ourselves. Like, how can I even deeply understand who I am, and to be empathetic,
mm,
and to understand that, like, when we are empathetic towards others, then we are seeking to understand them. We're using reasoning. We're using trying to see things from a different perspective. Could I put myself in Mo's shoes and see life from his eyes and from his life experience,
mm.
which can be challenging. And I really like I kind of am obsessed about the challenge of it, you know?
Yeah.
And to me, it's a deeper way of loving someone. So when I think about I really have approached it from this kind of heart-centered space of what if we could leverage AI to gain deeper insights about humans? What if we could use AI to even become better humans by becoming better communicators and be more empathetic in our lives? So
Yeah.
these are some things I'd like to explore, and this is what has helped us to launch the Ideal Client Handbook to help entrepreneurs specifically gain deeper insights on their ideal client, not just the demographics, but the psychographics, their emotions. What do they say in their own words, and what does that reveal about them?
Yeah.
What are their fears, frustrations, limiting beliefs, and aspirations? What are their gaps? What is something they would put in a journal entry that they wouldn't share with the world? And I have been so blown away about how AI can articulate that through our process in a way that is so deep and so meaningful and so human. So when I think about this piece around mission, I'm like, yes, yes. Like I believe I'm here on this planet to empower others to tap more into empathy. And that's something I'm going to be speaking more into as I move forward in my journey.
Amazing. And it's amazing that you realize that, AI is such a broad term. We hear it all the time. It's almost now as much as I love this technology and we, consult on it, you hear it over and over again, and it's such a big umbrella. But what what eventually you realize is it's because it's like electricity. It's what you do with it, how you direct it, that really makes a difference. It's otherwise it's just this very nebulous concept. And I love how you have fashioned it into this tool that is very much delivering on the mission. And for you, mission is important. So this mission focused approach to what you're doing with it is absolutely wonderful, and it's a playbook for a lot of other entrepreneurs to follow. So now I want to touch on something because you talk about authenticity, and I really appreciate that because we talk about the world where, in a world now where everybody is AI empowered, writing, publications, marketing, etc. It's being handed off now to automation because it's just so much more efficient and in many ways better than a human at it. But at the same time, there is a sense of AI is a tool trained on data. So whatever data you train it on, that's what it's going to spit out. And eventually, you might lose authenticity if it's simply just pulling from from what the collective experience is for everyone. I want to ask you, for you, how do you balance this powerful automation, but also maintaining this authentic marketing?
Yeah, great question. So the way that I do that, and I find this extremely important when using AI for any form of communication that's representing us,
Hmm.
is to not just focus on prompting, but to focus on your inputs and your knowledge and really thinking about if this AI is going to represent me, then it needs to have this depth of context, right? So that's why we created the Ideal Client Handbook, because if we're using it for marketing and communication for our ideal clients and our audience, then we must train it on the deepest insights on our ideal client. So just like if I hired a copywriter, right? I wouldn't just say, "Hey, write some copy for me," and it's for entrepreneurs and scaling their businesses, right?
Right.
Like a good copywriter would say, "Hold on, let's sit down.
Got some
I want
questions
to know
for you.
more. Let's do some market research on the ideal client. Let's interview some of your top five clients, or like some of your top clients.
Yeah.
I want to know like their personality, your personality, like all the things that are important in communication." And so now with this tool, we can upload the Ideal Client Handbook into, for example, ChatGPT
Yeah.
or a custom GPT or Claude or any of these platforms that we use for content creation, copywriting, that kind of thing. And
Yeah.
so it immediately trains your ideal client. It's about 40 pages in length. But in order to create the Ideal Client Handbook, you only answer three questions. What is your purpose? What is your desired transformation for your ideal client or desired outcome for your ideal client? And
Hmm.
then describe your business. And then you press submit, and then it goes through our kind of proprietary process on the back end. And it's not just one custom GPT or one big prompt. It's a series of prompts that we spent months kind of testing and testing and testing,
Yeah.
and then having every answer build upon the last answer. So it has this like cascade effect.
Yeah.
And then it basically comes up with like 500 pages about your ideal client and then reduces it to 40 pages, and it's organized in a very specific way that we trained it to do. And then within 10 minutes of answering those three questions, it sends you this 40-page document in a Google Doc. And so then you can upload that into these platforms and say, here's my ideal client. So before I'm working on whatever I'm doing with AI about my ideal client, anything that's client facing, then we train it on the ideal client. We can also train it on our unique writing style. We have a writing style analyzer that we built.
Ah,
So we give it context, right? Context is
it's
everything,
everything.
right?
Yes.
So we just speak a lot with our clients in our community, like context is everything. And again, that improves our communication as humans. Like
Yes.
it has changed how I show up in my relationships with my friends, because if I'm just telling some random story and they're like, "Okay, what are you talking about, Amy?" It's like, what's the context? Why am I sharing the story? How is it relevant to them? Is it entertaining? Is it relevant to something they've experienced? Is it like, what is it? And I believe we have better relationships when we're not just sharing something for the sake of being on a stage or being in a spotlight, but
Mm.
actually caring about the audience, even if it's a friend or a spouse or a child or a parent. It's
Yeah.
like, why should they care? Like what's relevant to them and why should they care? Right.
Yeah.
So it's the same approach.
And that's
Yeah.
the empathy part you're talking about, where it really is focused on the human aspect of it. You are using machine to amplify it. And I appreciate that very much because what I'm hearing is you're all about adopting AI to amplify your purpose, to amplify your mission. And I think you're clearly doing that. But beyond just the business aspect, I want to jump now a little bit into using it personally because I've seen a lot of leaders who, and I myself, find a huge benefit in having it analyze us and almost acting like I believe actually at one point when you and I chatted, you called one of the AI models you use your personal therapist. And at the time that made me laugh. Not and also resonated because I understand what you mean by that. I mean, especially in a world where therapists are harder to find, more expensive, hard to get along with. Sometimes you don't even like the person. But then you have this 24/7 chat window that is not going to judge you and is going to tell you. So, I want to hear, how do you actually use some of these tools day to day, beyond just being for your as a business to help your clients, but for you as an entrepreneur?
Yes, I think that I mean I'm smiling because I use it so much for that now that it's become another layer of support in my life, right?
Mm,
So I always, when people are so afraid of AI replacing them, I like to kind of unpack that a little bit. Like, what are you really afraid of?
mm,
Like let's just I like to just sit with that question, not just about replacing, but like when it comes to like, oh, AI is scary or I'm skeptical. Like I want to ask that deeper question. Like I just always like to go deeper. Like, what are you actually afraid of? And like have people explore themselves and say, like, well, I'm afraid it's going to steal my IP and I'm afraid of this and I'm afraid of that. Or what if I tell it something and then now it's out there?
mm.
Like, well, we put stuff out there all the time. It's
Yeah.
just now in another way, right? Like we put
Yes.
stuff out there on social media.
On
We
Facebook,
anyone
on Instagram. Yeah.
right.
We
And
pour our
anyone
heart out about
yeah,
what happened, Yeah.
if you have a Google Drive, right? If you have a Gmail account, like that's out there, right? Like
Yes.
it's just we're more accustomed to it, so we feel safe.
Yeah.
So, but to bring it back, my absolute favorite tool is one that my partner Ken created, and it's called the Roscoe. And the Roscoe, it's been a custom GPT that now we're going to be putting a user interface on it and
Yeah.
have it more available in the world. And
Yeah.
this is something we're kind of teaching our clients about too, is how you can kind of monetize your expertise
I
or
saw you have an
monetize your,
upcoming webinar on that, which is
yes,
great. By the way, we'd love to
yep.
promote it on the show, but how to
So,
basically leverage GPT, custom GPTs
yeah.
and sell them essentially, which is great.
There's a really cool platform that we become an affiliate for
Mm,
that where you can put a user interface and have a subscription base. So if you for anyone who's been building custom GPTs, like your own specialized AI, your own specialized GPT,
yeah.
you can then turn it into a subscription base for the people you're meant to serve. But to bring it all the way back, sorry,
Yeah.
I digress.
Yeah.
The Roscoe was designed as an AI tool to help you through personal breakthroughs. And so I started to play with it. What I love about it is that it starts off, but you can just go in and say hi, and it says, "Hi, what's on, glad you're here. What's on your mind today?" And then I can share whatever it is, whether I'm stressed about something or overwhelmed, or I've got a complicated relationship with a family member, and I can say, "Oh," just like share my vulnerability.
Yeah.
And then the way it responds to me is it'll say something like, "Wow, thank you so much for sharing that with me. I have a hunch about why you might be feeling that way. Do you mind if I share that with you?" And it's like, oh, it's empathetic, right? It's
Yeah.
empathy represented in an AI.
Correct.
And
Yeah.
so it has helped me to see things from different perspectives that I may
Yeah.
otherwise
I've
experience
missed.
through
Yeah.
maybe a therapist or a friend, but it's nice to just be able to go in, share that, and know that it's only taking in the context of me, right? And it's able to also look at here are some other ways to look at the situation.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, Mo, this particular tool has brought me to tears multiple times
Wow.
and has helped me throughout difficult challenges, either in my mindset or in my life, where I just needed a breakthrough. When you just feel stuck in something, you're like, I just want to have a breakthrough in this. And I just can't believe even though it's happening, that an AI can do that. But I have proof of concept.
Yep.
And as
Yep.
I've shared this tool with others, they also have said, "Oh my gosh, this has changed everything." Right? I've never noticed this pattern. There's a woman I know that is has been a kind of a personal development leader for I don't know over 2 decades,
Yeah.
and she used the Roscoe, and she said, "I just learned a pattern that I've never discovered in my line of work and myself and how I've dedicated my life to personal development." Another one used it, kind of a friend of a friend. She used it and she had a chat with a Roscoe. And because of this chat, she left a 20-year abusive relationship. I mean, that just
It's incredible. That is
gives me,
those.
I'm like, so,
Yeah.
so I really am embracing AI and I just see that it's evolving rapidly. And I also can see where it can actually make us better humans and give us those breakthroughs.
It's empowering. It's incredibly empowering because and not only as you mentioned, it's on demand there, ready to listen to you. And I think in today's world, that's just in short supply. It's really hard to find somebody who's ready to listen to you and help you through things. And machines are able to do that now at our fingertips. This is both beautiful, but on Beyond the Bite, we kind of like to look at both sides of the coin. And at the same time, one has to be concerned about the fact that we're now turning more to technology instead of to other humans for something that we used to turn to other humans for. But technology is helping us in ways that are now we're not really like we reaching out to a personal therapist is difficult. Not only is it, and also potentially financially expensive as well. And so now this idea of having a therapist ready to talk to you in AI is beautiful, such that I can see this becoming now the norm, rather than just a few empowered people doing it. And this has some interesting implications. So I go to you now to ask you a question. When do you not turn to AI nowadays? Being somebody who's adopted it and loves it and it's helping them in a lot of ways, when do you kind of, what are the limits? Where do you draw the line?
Where I draw the line is when I want to turn to someone who understands what I'm going through because they've been through it in some way, shape, or form.
Mm,
So the one thing that AI cannot do is it can't say, "Hey Mo, I totally understand because I too have lost a loved one and gone through the
yes.
grieving process," right?
Yep.
Like I'm not going to expect AI to be able to tell me its own story of what it's like to lose a mother, right? Like my mom passed in 2010, and even though it can be empathetic towards me, it can share some insights for me, and I believe as humans, in order to like have support around us, it helps to talk to other humans who have
Yes.
gone through something similar. And even though
Yes.
we all experience things like grieving differently, it has been so helpful over the years of missing my mother, to be able to talk to someone who's experienced it, like, oh, I mean, I understand, like I went through this experience and we can relate to one another, we can comfort one another.
Yeah.
Also, it's not the same talking to an AI as it is when you get to look into the eyes of another human being, when you get to make the eye contact, feel their energy, feel their emotion, hug them, the physical sense
Physical,
also.
the touch
Yeah.
aspect of things. Yes.
So, so it's to me what's beautiful about this is that I see AI as just another layer of support in our lives
Yeah.
and not here to
Not a
replace
replace. Yeah.
beauty of deep human connection.
Indeed.
And so I remember doing a talk on a stage a couple of maybe it was like a year and a half ago. And I was training on, AI. It was still, pretty new for most of the world. And then at the last part of my talk, I talked about what AI cannot do, and it was inspired by the five most common things people say when they are dying, when they're in hospice. I know there's a book about this, but I
Mm.
found some list that was similar to the book about kind of the five regrets of the dying or something like that. And I'm not sure if I remember all of them, but it was all about like, making sure you spend time with your loved ones, taking risks, being authentically yourself, saying what you really want to say. There was these beautiful things, and I thought like these should become our rules of living as humans because AI can't replace that human experience.
Yeah.
So I just think that we're just evolving our role as humans as we adopt AI, whether we choose to really adopt it. It's here and it's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Um, and there's just certain things that are just so precious that are reserved for us as humans.
It's interesting that you say that, and I really want to. I was nodding the whole time. I want to agree with you, but at the same time, as a futurist myself, I'm thinking, okay, you're absolutely right. AI can't tell you about what it means to really have lost somebody close. Um, and in fact, I mean, it can actually tell you, but you know that it's faking it, right? I mean, this is
Right.
this
Yeah.
idea of it is emulating or mimicking human emotion. So it is not capable of true empathy because it's not context aware. You know that when you ask it these questions, it doesn't really understand. It's just borrowing from the language it's learned on in the internet.
Right.
However, what we're talking about really is a sense of it's because it's trained on all these disparate data sources. There's no real empathy. But if you've ever watched any kind of movies or read books where we talk about embodied AI, AI that now sits in machines that then ends up being out in the world and having actual experiences, maybe actually having a friend and then perhaps losing that friend. This personification or anthropomorphication of AI, where AI actually takes on the role of a person that can then listen and have memories and be able to reflect. If you ever watch the movie Blade Runner, at the end of Blade Runner, tears in the rain, and this concept, I wonder if AI will one day be able to uh, really actually be capable of serving as a truly empathetic partner. I don't want to believe that, but
Yeah.
I wonder if it's just a matter of time before that is something that AI can do. So as you were saying, AI can't do. I want to add, well, can't do yet. Do you think that perhaps it can one day reach that? I mean, movies like Her, where if we start putting AI in very lifelike looking humanoid machines, will that line be blurred? Might you even cross that limit, that line that you just talked about?
I think it's entirely possible. Similar to you, I don't love the idea of it, but just seeing where it is now and how it's rapidly evolving, I can see it going there. I mean, I really can. And that's the part that makes me a little bit sad, because I think that there will be those who might replace their human relationships with AI relationships because they might feel a sense of safety and a sense of like feeling seen,
Comfort, feeling
right?
seen, heard,
Yeah.
and in a way that with humans are wonderful, but they're also flawed and they're capable of hurting us even without meaning to.
Yeah.
And to a certain degree, there's a certain safety found in AI that's like, oh, I know this thing's not going to really hurt me.
Yeah.
Um, but
Yeah.
it's interesting. I do appreciate though that you and I think about it, and similarly, we use it for brainstorming, for organizing thoughts,
Yeah.
for analyzing our leadership traits and helping us make better decisions. But when you really need empathy and clarity, you want to go to people at the end of the day. So and this is something in AI ethics we talk about it. AI is a tool, and we want to continue to use it as a tool, but we want to keep our eyes on how our use of it evolves because, we're kind of seeing the rapid advancements, and without proper steerage, it can go any which way. So actually, I want to dive into now. Let's talk a little bit about, and this is we've spelled out all the wonderful uses of AI. Let's let's talk about the flip side, the fear factor, right? I'm sure
Mhm.
you've heard about the term AGI, or artificial general intelligence, the idea that AI will get to be so powerful and so capable that it will be like like speaking to a human like intelligence. Um, and so, it's starting to sound like sci-fi. I mean, we're starting to sound like a lot of these. Once we take something like ChatGPT that talks to us so convincingly and put it in a machine, uh, we're going to have robots running around. Um, does that scare you? Is that for you a potentially a dark side where you've got walking, talking ChatGPTs?
A little bit. I mean, I certainly think about that, and I don't think it's so far off in the distance. I mean, I think there's at least still a few years out. I could be totally wrong.
Hmm.
Um, but I also just I trust in humanity. Like I really trust that we have had so many different eras, where there was a big change in the world, and at first it was very uncomfortable and very scary, and then people adjusted to it. And so I just believe in the power of humanity and yeah, the power of the human spirit that um I just think we're afraid of change. We're afraid of, the fear is the fear of uncertainty. And so I don't know. I just choose to approach my life where I do my best to not let fear drive me
Mm.
and
Yes.
instead just continue to deepen my trust in myself and deepen my trust in humanity that, as messy as the world can be, that I'm going to choose to show up, the best that I can around the people that I choose to surround myself with and try to make a positive impact.
Yeah.
Um, and I also, I mean, call me like a glass half full kind of a girl, but I'm also like, well, what if it did kind of take over in that sci-fi way, but
Yeah.
for bettering us, like making us better? Like what if it could see what we as humans are lacking and missing in the
Yeah.
way in which we treat one another as leaders, as countries, as people? And what
Helps
if
us
it
reflect on that.
yeah, like what if it actually made us better as humanity? I like to believe that's possible too. I think there's so much fear mongering around like, what if it takes over and it's like the Terminator and kills everybody? And like I'm just like, I mean, maybe, but what if it sees the opportunity for a better world? And so
Yeah.
I don't know. I tend to look at life through that lens, which can be good and bad.
No,
But
I think it's great, and I'm glad you said that because I think that we talk about how these tools end up becoming a reflection of us.
yeah.
And we mentioned, this is something that is anybody who works in AI development knows that it's not just about data and you feed it data and it learns from the data. But a lot of it is like what kind of data are you feeding it? And when we talk about structuring data, there's an element of bias that you're going to accidentally introduce because any developer working on AI is just going to kind of imprint their worldview on as they train it without whether they mean to or not. That's just how it's going to be, and you have to watch out for bias. But at the same time, as you mentioned, this is why we have to look at it with a good lens, not a bad lens. If we look at it with fear, it's the same idea of we talked about diving and ocean creatures and animals in general. The fear that you have is a fear that you output to the animal. So you end up like I've found that a lot of the accidents that people have with animals is because their fear creates fear in the other creature, and that when the two fears combine, it creates for bad situations. But if instead you embrace curiosity instead of fear, being cautious, as we talked about at the beginning of the episode,
Mhm.
you're going to find a whole lot of differences. So I like that you're looking at it with the perspective of, look, no, we are going to use this technology in a good way to create value, to create meaning, to better our world instead of being afraid. Because if we lead with fear, then that's what we're doing. Many people compare AI to like a child, like you're teaching, like we're like AI is kind of like humanity's child.
Yeah.
And so
Mhm.
what we teach it is going to be ultimately what it becomes. If we look at it with fear, then it'll grow up to be a fearful thing.
Yeah.
Um,
Great
so
way to
you
say.
actually, and I think when you and I chatted, just talking about our episode here, you mentioned the film Leave the World Behind, which is a great film, and I think we learn from fiction so much. It's what is it? I believe was it Andy Warhol said something like "Life is stranger than fiction." But what about that film stood out to you?
Oh, just that, I mean, it was a bit unsettling to
Mm,
watch that film, to know that it's not such a crazy idea that something like that could happen, just with how everything is so connected with AI technology, all of it.
yes.
Um, and at the same time, it's like, okay, well, if we're aware of it, what can we do to partner with it
Yeah.
versus like show up as kind of there, there's the negative side of humanity, right? It's like and so in this movie, I'm not going to give it away, but there's just some unsettling things that
Mm,
happen,
yeah.
and it's like, but it's not like the thing that you can see visibly. It's
Yeah.
like the invisible power of AI technology and whatnot.
Right.
So yeah, I think it just stood out as like kind of a wake up call. Like it's not such a crazy idea that this
Yeah.
could happen,
Yeah.
and just be aware of it, but not to live in fear as well.
Yeah.
So
And
yeah.
I don't think it's going to happen because of the machines themselves. It's going to happen because of people behind machines. Tech is a tool, and in the hands of a good person, it's wielded well. In the hands of a not good person, it's going to be wielded for evil.
Yeah,
Um,
that,
so
you know what? I love that you said that, Mo. I really love that you said that because it really is about the people behind it. And it's like, it's just like anything. Are you going to use this tool for good or for evil? Are you going to use your power for good or for evil? And it's a choice, like a hammer can become a weapon really quickly, but it's
yes,
like not what you're using it for, right? So it's like, how are you using the tool and how are you using your power to
yeah.
leverage this tool? So I love that you brought that up.
I'm glad that you feel that way, and this is the mindset we need to have right now with these tools. But this is great. I want to now kind of bring this back down to earth a little bit, because we kind of went we and I love that we went large with it and analyzed it. We want to do that on the show. But you, of course, you've used AI to streamline lead generation. Now that is valuable. That's powerful. I mean, we're talking about ROI here. So for the business minded folks that are watching, I want to know, what has the impact been for you as far as using AI for your business, but also how are your clients reacting to these tools that you've introduced to them and helped them with their lead generation?
Yeah, it's been really fun. So we have one of our latest tools is called Bot Leads, and Bot Leads, it's really designed mostly for a B2B business that's established, and it's where you can leverage this tool to put in your criteria of your ideal client
Mm.
and then like specifics of your ideal client, and then it will do the searches for you. And then it has an AI assistant that will generate a summary about that specific person and how your company can help them. And then initial like organic outreach message that you can send them, and it gives you all these insights about the person. So for anyone who is has spent time prospecting, for high level clients, this just significantly reduces the time it takes to find out a lot of information about them. Like I think back to when I was in corporate sales and advertising and how long it would take to find the decision maker of a company, right? And how do I approach them in a way that's respectful and opens up possibility? And so this tool has been really great, and it's been interesting because it just to be totally transparent. It's kind of given me two focuses in business, which I don't recommend to anyone,
Mm.
where I continue to serve our community of coaches and service-based entrepreneurs who are wanting to integrate AI into their businesses. And some of them will use a tool like this, but really Bot Leads is for the larger companies that have
Yes.
a sales team and a process, and they're looking for ways to significantly reduce the time for prospecting and outreach. And then there's an autopilot feature where it can actually do the prospecting for you on a daily basis. So you just always have a current list of potential clients.
Yeah.
And then we have a bot system. So if people want to go to a whole new level, then it has the whole sales process is automated. So it
Mm.
has these bots that work together to do the prospecting on the front end, do the
Yes.
initial outreach for you, do the follow-up for you, offer
Amazing.
to get on a call with either a human or an AI. So some people are not ready for phone calls with a voice bot.
Yeah.
Um, but even if it does all the pre-qualifying for you, and then you get on a call with someone who's ready to work with you, I mean, that's pretty sweet, right?
Yeah.
So, and
Right.
then, so,
It
so this
qualifies your leads, make sure that you're talking to the right person. It does a lot of the heavy lifting there. Yeah.
Exactly. So that's been fun. But with our beloved audience of in our Powerhouse AI community, we've been focusing on keeping them up to speed with AI as it relates to entrepreneurs and
Yes.
bringing integrating AI into their businesses, building their own AI tools like custom GPTs, and now
Yeah.
we have partnered with this platform Pickaxe that can put
The
a
paywall.
paywall and
Yeah.
the protections and privacies on it, and so they can add another subscription base, or there's many different ways they can use those tools. So
Yeah.
I know it's a lot of information, but the way that it has helped is just to simplify AI for our clients
Yes.
and
Make it
to
approachable, make it
yeah,
usable
make
for
it
them.
approachable. And just like we don't tell our clients you have to use it this one way. That's never been my way of being as a mentor and a coach. It's like
Yeah.
let's think about instead of having them ask the question like, well, which AI platform should I use? I'm like, that's like going into Home Depot. Like my friend Gus said this once. It's like going to Home Depot and saying, what's the best tool? It's like, no.
Well, yeah. What do you need
What
to
are you
do?
working
What are you
on?
trying to
Right?
do? What are you working on?
What's
Right.
what's your vision? What's your desired outcome? What are you working on? What
That's it.
what challenge are you overcoming? And then let's look at what's possible with AI to accelerate, improve, and overcome whatever it is that you're working on.
Yeah.
So it's been fun to just build this really heart-centered, innovative, ambitious group
Yeah.
that it's like we're in it together, And so yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
That's awesome. And I'm sure your clients are really appreciative of the fact that you opened up this world for them.
Yeah.
Now you help them learn how to use these tools. You open up the world of AI for them. Um,
hmm
as far as helping them adopt, you of course you have a very mission driven, very narrow focused AI, and you want to do good with it. We talked about how that it's a tool, wielded correctly, it's great. Wielded incorrectly, it's not. What does ethical AI adoption look like in real businesses when you think about that, right? And actually, going back one before that question is, what do you think of the concept of ethical AI in business as a business owner yourself? Does that kind of principle seem nebulous, or do you have a real um, uh, opinion about ethics of AI in business?
Yeah, I would say that's a great question. I would say the first thing that comes to my heart and mind with that is to not use it to replace you, but instead to use it to amplify your message, your mission, your voice,
Yeah.
and to be thoughtful in your approach. Like it really drives me nuts when somebody just gives it a crappy prompt, and it's like it's that whole saying of like garbage in, garbage out. But then
Yes.
they're like, oh well, this is better than nothing, so I'll use
I'll
it.
just use that.
So you just see all these posts and messages and blogs, and you can tell when AI has written it without good context. So I'm not
Yeah.
anti using AI to write for you, but you've got to like train it, give it the context of really
Listen.
good communication. Really good communication. I mean, from back in the day, it's like there's a sender, there's the message, there's the receiver, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
so it's just like this goes way, way back. Like I don't know how far back I should study this, but if you think about good communication, like you gotta have information on each of these components of the sender, the message, the receiver.
Yeah.
And so when we give it the context of all of this, then it can create something better. And
Amazing. Yeah.
yeah, so I would say don't let it replace you, let it amplify you, and give it really good context.
And I love how you said the context, this aspect of it's like a really good copywriter. It needs to amplify it needs to be your message. And
Yeah.
ultimately, what the input needs to be your message, and the output that it helps you with should still be your message. So if the output that, after your input, if the output looks and you read it and you go, yeah, that I don't that doesn't sound like me, then you need to go and do some work here.
Yep.
But I really appreciate this idea. And I think what you're saying is you want to begin with the end in mind, this aspect of what are you trying to do with it? Like your analogy of going to the Home Depot, it's like, okay, you're adopting this tool. What are you doing? What do you need it for? Don't just go buy the tool for having it and be like, oh, I'm sure this is going to help. But really make sure that you're having a very narrow use case for what you're doing with it.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate that. Now, Amy, I don't want to, I think first of all, I think you're an awesome business minded person, business coach. And I can't tell you how much I admire your ability to go from where you were to this, adopting the tech, being curious about it. I'm not going to call you a Luddite. And I know that word upsets some people. But unlike somebody like me who, I grew up living, breathing tech. I programmed my first computer when I was 5 years old.
Mhm.
You, on the other hand, you kind of just recently adopted this tool. So if and adopting it well and doing all the stuff with it, what would your advice be to people like you, business owners, people who are kind of curious, not sure what to do? How did your journey of going from where you were to where you are now? What have you learned that can help others, replicate that success that you've had?
Yeah, I mean, I think it just goes back to bringing it back to what is your vision like that, because
Mm.
that still is the same, like same or evolved from the last time you thought about it. So I always like to ask my clients from today's vantage point, what is your vision? And
Mm.
that can be a really big question. So I recognize that. So if it's easier to think about like what's my vision or my goal inside my business within the next 90 days,
Yeah.
or what's my vision in my relationship this year, or what's my right, like just to think about like what do you know for sure that you want in these different areas or containers in your life,
Yeah.
and then ask yourself, can AI help me to accelerate or improve the process of this, right? And then I always joke around in my workshops for my audience. I always say, I think AI secretly stands for ask it. Right. So anytime you don't know, like
Ask it.
I
Yeah.
just ask it. Like anytime I have a question mark in my head, I mean, it's not that I don't still sit and think. I think that's still, a powerful thing to do. And I like testing and experimenting with AI. And I'll say, hey, I'm thinking about this question, or I'm trying to identify my vision for my life these next 12 months. Like I'm just kind of feeling stuck. Let it ask you questions, right? So I just think that I would say just ask it. Don't be afraid of it. Still stay vision and mission driven and just
Yes.
let it know, here's what I want. I think sometimes the problem with people, including myself sometimes, is like, it's not about what should I do? It's about being clear on what do I want. I think when we're clear about what we want and we let the world know, and when I say the world, it could be your inner circle or it could be a big audience or it could be AI, just saying, this is what I want. This is where I'm stuck or I'm ready to get started. Let's go. Right. Then it's more likely to happen and happen faster because you've gained clarity and you've spoken it out into the world. So
I
just
I hundred
put that
I
out there.
100% agree. Staying mission driven, being curious about the tech. And so, Amy, how can people continue connecting with you? And we're going to put a link in the description for the Ideal Client Handbook. But other than that, how can people connect with you to learn more, to get your help with using AI and using it for their lead generation?
Yeah, for sure. Well, you can, definitely DM me on Instagram. It's at Amy Yamada. most everything for me is just I was able to claim my name. The only thing I would say is if you ever Google my name, if you put in Amy Yamada, you'll see two of us come up, myself, and then there's a trashy romance novelist who is not me, well known in Japan. I'm sure she's great. Uh, but
Good.
yeah, so there is another Amy Yamada. I'm sure she's great. But yeah, you can easily find me online if you just go, Google Amy Yamada or DM me on Instagram, and we'll put some links here too, and my websites and whatnot.
Well, thank you so much, Amy. The future belongs to those who adopt responsibly and ask the right questions and center humanity at the core of this. And I think, for as we've talked about, and business success is really about having the right strategy and making sure it's sustainable. I'm a fan of Simon Sinek. It says business is an infinite game, just like life. And the object of the game is simply to stay in the game. And AI is helping us do that and helping business owners do more with less. So I think this mindful adoption of AI for sustainability is around to stay. It's not just ethical; it's something that's strategic. And I really appreciate business founders like you, Amy, who are great examples of adopting AI. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for being on the show. It's been a pleasure. If you've enjoyed this episode of Beyond the Bite with Amy Yamada, please give us a like, comment on the show, let us know what you thought. And as always, stay curious, stay ethical, stay human. And this has been Beyond the Bite. Thank you.
Thank you.